Yeah, what you got? You got a little something.
Oh,
It might just be lagging.
wow,
That's
mine
okay.
must be so
What
delayed.
Yes, Riley, what
Is
is
that
it?
cocaine?
Is it cocaine?
Oh my
We paid do
god.
drugs.
We've already started.
Knowing Renard, it's probably like literally just flower pollen and he's like manually pollinating flowers by trying to mimic bees.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's
Just shoves his face in a flower, shoves his face in another flower.
yeah, you know.
You know, that sounds about right.
So, welcome everyone, both on Twitch and on YouTube, to GoldTail D&D Session 5.
Yeah.
We have Starion back, yay!
Yay!
Wibbles.
And we have some exciting things coming. One thing that I thought would be interesting would be to have a redeem of some sort, where people would be able to give a character advantage on the next roll that they make. It would be a kind of higher level redeem, so it'll take like more points than some of the little like wiggly boys that people have been doing in the nice chat. But this would allow people to kind of help out their character. And it would be, you click a button, you type in the name of the person that you want to give it to, and then I, as the DM, will kind of take note of that and do all that kind of stuff. We're not going to have it today in this session because we're still feeling things out and kind of want to give you
Come
guys
up with
an idea.
more ideas.
Yeah, we'll come up with a couple ideas, maybe something that can be exclusive to Barry's side of things that we can also make sure that Barry is getting support. That way you guys can have both streams open at the same time. if you
Yeah,
wanna
which
participate
you
in
should,
everything.
by the way.
Which
I
you
have-
totally should.
Yeah, right
yeah.
here. See, look, go right there.
Yep, max out the volume. Yep, so you can hear all of everything. And if we're getting a lot of advantage rolls, then I'll just make the enemies harder. I have no problem with that.
Oh, Jesus
There you
Christ.
go.
That's a great thing about me being the DM is that I can just adjust as need be.
Yeah.
To where maybe you guys really need to be giving out, those D&Deems.
God.
D and Deems.
So, without further ado, I think it's time to begin our session. It is a beautiful, bright day. Beautiful spring, heading into summer day outside the walls of Arkala. The sun has risen. You guys have packed up your camp, and you begin the trek back. On the way, about an hour into that trek, you see hot on your trail is Quinn. Coming around a bend and around a tree, you spot the Heron face perhaps a little bit weary, maybe. What do you think, Quinn?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Something like that, yeah.
Ah, yes. Our faithful companion has returned. Hello, Quinn. I think it was Quinn. Quinn, right? He stops,
Yeah.
kind of thinks. He looks up for a minute. And he's like, yes, that was correct. Like, like ignoring what
He's convinced
Quinn said.
himself, yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
Even
he has
if
to
Quinn is
convince-
shaking her head, or his head, yeah.
It's like, oh my god. He's like, yes. We need to catch you up on the happenings. Yes, we had a lovely meeting last night. I was asleep for it. They were quite considerate, I have to say. And Rocky's been doing very well. And he just kind of like holds up. He's like, he's got on a diet and everything.
Oh my God. That's right. I forgot about the fucking rock. Christ. Okay.
Don't give Warren anything.
Well, he has one thing right. We do have a lot to talk about.
Yes, I think we do.
It's like, yes. Can someone who isn't Warren explain?
Let us walk back towards the safety of the walls while we do, yeah?
I'll say that at this point, Clume kind of pops out from a bush, and she's kind of like, okay, guys, we should be good. I didn't see anyone else. And then she turns and sees Quinn, and immediately, without any hesitation, she just yells, "Quinn!" and runs right over, like already fucking bawling before she even gets halfway there. And fucking just like immediately leaps into his arms and like
Papa! You came
Quinn
back
just-
from the milk that you said you were buying.
Oh no! But Quinn catches her.
The cigarettes.
no,
Yeah,
Okay,
Quinn
okay.
catches her as she jumps at him, and he's like a little surprised, but just kind of like holds her really tight, doesn't say anything. And well, for a moment, and then he's like, I'm sorry I left without warning.
Why would you leave me with them by myself?
I'm sure you did fine. And he just pats her on her little mushroom head.
Just pat.
Oh my god. Coon just like she's just like super attached to Warren right now. She's not budging at all.
You mean Clume or
You mean Quinn?
Quinn? Yeah.
Super attached to Warren? Yeah, are you sure that's what you
Shut
want
up.
That's what I want to be.
We're talking about Warren, okay? You know what I meant.
Okay.
Continuing to trek back towards the town. So, they suggested that we head back behind our walls, and honestly, it is a good idea. If we're caught off guard by this heir or this king, not likely to end well for us, given the success that that this group had sneaking up on us. Moreover, we have the information we came for.
True. That's what you've said does explain a few things that I found out during my own investigation.
And just where were you off to, huh?
Well, he like looks really uncomfortable, kind of remembering the dream. Also, at this point, not realizing all of them had the same dream. After a peculiar dream I had the other night, I just felt this urge to go back out to that tree to see if there's anything we had overlooked, anything we had missed. And when I went out there early that morning, I ran into a woman there at the tree with an undead, whom I later realized was her father. And the thing I noticed, as I remember when we went, correct me if I'm wrong, the leaves of the tree, they had burned all of you, correct? Warren included.
Yeah, Riley.
They didn't burn me.
Well, yes, you and I managed to avoid it.
You and I were smart.
Aye, though.
Quick.
The leaves were indeed not so friendly-like.
Warren
When
kind
I
of like
arrived-
shuffles.
Oh, Warren.
He's like, oh.
When I arrived there that morning, the undead was standing in the leaves and he was healing rather than burning.
That makes a certain degree of sense. The undead are... She waves a hand in the air, sort of in a circle. Powered, run, by something else. They don't work like the living do.
That's true. The one thing that worries me, which I did share with Captain Daynor before I came to meet up with you all, is the fact that if the tree is able to heal the undead, and if the undead continue to rise as they do, Arkala, and perhaps the other cities, could very well become quickly overrun if this sort of thing happens again.
Well, yes and no, I suppose. The tree itself is worrisome in that regard, especially if it's going to be hurting the living or our crops or other such things. But as to it healing the undead, I don't see that as much of a problem. Either the undead that we're using are kept in good shape, or if we end up getting too many of them, well, matter of time before we dismantle them ourselves, yeah?
I suppose. He like twitches an ear nervously, and it might be kind of obvious to those who can see it that there's probably more he wants to say about it, but he won't really mention it.
Erst hatches upon one of the other things that he said. Oh, lad, you mentioned a dream that encouraged you to go out and a-looking. By any chance, was it the one where the dark tree was reaching out and surrounding you with roots and demanding that you worship it like a pretty pony?
He stares at Ernest for a long moment and says, yes.
Erst nods sagely, then looks back to the rest of the group. I think we had this conversation while he was away. How many of you had that dream?
Warren raises his, his clawed hand.
Not even his hand is a claw.
Andre just gives out a confirming grunt.
Bloom does nothing.
Clue does nothing.
Oh.
Clue's like,
Doesn't seem like you're alone in this one. It looked if and I didn't know better, I'd say the tree was reaching out to us.
Oh, I did have one thing to give Adre. And Quinn carefully reaches into his bag while carrying Clume on his back and pulls out what looks to be flat that he has wrapped in a little cloth, and he hands it over to Adre. And he says, I managed to collect one of the leaves from the tree, and you seem to be the one it makes the most sense to give to, I suppose, if you want to study it.
Warren, he suddenly remembers something, and he's like, oh, right, yes, of course. Quinn, yes. See, Rocky here, he has a rune on it. And I'm aware the rune is not there anymore, but he's like, I was wondering if you could read this for me. Yes, and he walks up, he turns the rock over, sees that the rune is gone, immediately panics and starts looking on the floor as though it had fallen off. It appears that Rocky seems to have what can runes just disappear like that? Oh dear! It's like
Clume kind of, you hear Clume giggling, and then she's like, maybe he lost it during the diet.
Oh,
Warren. The thing about the diet before was a bit of joking. While you were sleeping, the nomads that found us, being the experts in runic magic that they were, apparently one of them took minor offense to the rune and removed it.
So
that's also why Rocky is lighter.
Okay, so if Quinn wants to say something, because Warren is processing this for a minute, and he's getting a little angry.
He's got that apple wheel.
Yeah,
over
beach
his
ball
head.
death.
Yeah,
Hey,
Quinn,
Riley.
you can roll either an investigation check or an arcana check, whichever you like.
I was about to say, can I inscribe a new rune on it when Warren's not looking?
Oh,
Warren is-
probably.
Yeah, Warren is quite distracted.
Do I need to roll for that at all?
Yeah, roll an arcana check and tell me what kind of rune you're inscribing.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
You just want to re-inscribe the heavy rune onto it.
Okay, judging by memory, because that was the first time that you had seen the heavy rune, you inscribe it quickly using your magic. It kind of presses in like an emboss into the stone, and you notice the rock get a little bit heavier in your hand. Not to the point that it's like difficult to carry like it was before, but probably double its weight, judging by the size, the fist size that it is.
Warren, here, the rune is still here. I think you just missed it the first time.
He looks down at the rock. He's like, oh, I see. Okay, all right, I see. All right, you gave me a heart attack there, Ernest. Goodness. Oh, removing poor Rocky's rune. No, that was an insult. Poor Rocky can't get sick like that. No. I will not stand for this. Something under my care will not be damaged again. He hugs the rock.
Maybe you should take it off the diet, because I wasn't joking when I said it would lose the rune.
It's like, but of course. Oh yes, thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Clume. I do appreciate your help in fixing Rocky. This is wonderful news. I'm glad that we could save the poor thing.
Speaking of rocks, and his ears kind of lower as he recalls something else he had done while away from the group, and he looks everyone over for a moment. That comment you made about the air controlling the creatures out here,
Aye.
that makes a lot of sense for what else I found. I decided to loop back towards the hole in the wall that we had originally found, and I discovered tracks from the Enkeg, which I followed north. And about a mile out of town, I found what appeared to be the entrance to their den. But the strangest thing is the fact there were tracks at all. These creatures are burrowers. They tunnel underground to ambush their prey. And the tracks were a little too straight for wild animals to make of their own volition, in my experience.
So, what you're saying is that it's likely that these Ankegs were under the control of one of these other beings, and were drawn overland instead of burrowing to the hole in the wall, to make it look like it was just some natural occurrence.
I think so, yes.
Hmm.
Clum kind of like butts in here. If you don't mind, could we get back to town before we keep discussing this? I will explain a theory I have once we get back.
Certainly, certainly.
You pass the guard, a satyr who stands there at attention and makes a note of your arrival. Since you have nothing to declare that you're bringing back, you are allowed right back through without issue.
A specific point, probably to the person that we should report all this to, which would be Lord Daner.
Okay.
So probably go speak to him.
Very good. So it's late. The guards tell you at the door that Daner has retired for the evening. What do you do from there?
I suppose we can wait until morning if it comes to it. In that case, how would you all like to come to my family's estate for a brief period? I can serve you some drinks, we can talk some more. There'll be fewer ears in the walls.
Before we go do that, because that sounds lovely. Yay, being around people. But okay. Quinn. I'm sorry. Urist? I think it's the first time I ever said your name.
Aye.
And Warren, can come over here real fast. And she kind of beckons him to like a small little alley.
Warren just follows without question.
Audrey, stay.
Andre, stay. Stay,
Okay.
old man. Good old man.
So Adre is told to stay there in front of the barracks,
He
standing
just
there awkwardly.
grumbles and finds a crate or something to sit on.
Okay, you find one, no
Aw.
problem. So you take the rest of the group, and what do you do, Plume?
And that's
Alright,
when the
so-
carrion crawler attacks Archer.
Oh gosh.
Again.
Again.
So Klum kind of beckons him to a small little alley where there's like no one else around. And she's like, okay, so this may sound a little crazy, but I think those, she does little air quotes, Nomads might be able to see and hear through the mark on Audrey's hand. It's a theory, but it's mainly because of the fact that they all have this, think about this, they all have the mark, and they can all speak and listen to each other telepathically. That we kind of noticed that, or potentially telepathically. So what's stopping them from listening in through Audrey's mark?
So, Warren, he sits there, he thinks for a second, he's like, but wait, marks don't have eyes or ears. I don't think they can hear or see.
Clum's like, you know what? That's a good point. You know what you should do, Warren? I think Audrey's very curious about Rocky. Why don't you go tell him some rock facts?
Ah, but of course! He goes and walks back to
Okay,
pester
so-
Andre.
Oh no.
Once Warren leaves, Clum turns to the other two. Thoughts?
Useful thoughts?
I think it's definitely a potential there, because the Nomads did say that he'd be able to use the scar to contact them. Though it might be something that needs to be activated.
I don't know, because, like, I was catching a glimpse of them during this whole thing, and it seemed like they were chatting on a whim through their minds, because we didn't hear any words coming from them, but yet it was like they were speaking to each other, so that could probably mean that if they're marked, they must be speaking to each other somehow.
Aye.
But the main reason I'm telling you guys this is just because we might need to be a little bit careful what we say near Adre, or at least word things in such a way that might not screw us over.
Quite.
So when you come back out, you come back out to Adre taking the piss out of Warren by explaining how rocks mate.
Perfect.
Oh my god.
And how do you say that?
Oh no!
Well, you see, when an igneous rock meets a sedimentary rock that it likes.
It just puts his face in one of his hands.
It's like, this is great.
So you head back, following the road south. You follow Urist's lead.
As they go along, Urist explains the few things in short, going on briefly about the history. You're about to enter the Eshtan Estates, long-time home of dwarven smiths of proud bearing and long repute. Do not do anything to insult the clan nor the family. They shan't take it kindly. But if you come in peace, you'll be ready to be making friends for a long time.
Coming upon the Eshtan Estate, you see a building with squat floors. Not that it is a squat building, it is actually a rather tall building, but that it has perhaps shorter floors than other structures, being a dwarven home. It is Spartan in its decoration, not so ostentatious, almost brutal on the outside, and on the inside, warm and comfortable. So entering, you have this sitting room. Coffee table, chairs, sofa, a variety of simple decorations, pieces of artistry from the Eshtan clan over the centuries that they have been working and making their craft, weapons, armor, but the occasional piece of pottery and scripture and, leather-bound books and things like that. Emmett Eshtan walks in. He has set his pipe aside, but you can still smell the tobacco kind of rolling off of him. He steps in and pauses at the entryway, takes a look around at the lot of you, clears his throat to announce his presence, and takes his seat at the end of one of the coffee tables. Seeing that you guys are already sat, he then proceeds to sit down, clears his throat again, and says, "Daughter, what have you brought?"
Honored father, allow me to introduce my traveling companions for the moment, and those that helped me in the work beneath and out. And Ernst proceeds to go down the line, introducing each one individually by name.
You all smell of beyond the wall.
It is, I'm afraid, not something we can talk all that much about, but we've been poking about a little bit.
So, why bring them here?
It's like, why are your friends here?
In the middle of the night.
A successful venture and nothing more. We're here to relax a little bit, enjoy company, and then go our ways when it's time to sleep.
Okay, then. And he stands up and walks out.
It's like, all right.
Yeah, that's
And that's
right.
it. What
Goodness.
the fuck did I
Oh.
just hear?
Where'd that come from?
Warren suddenly RRs.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Wow. So you are given leave of the estate. There are some guest rooms. I imagine your father has a handful of attendants that can cook a meal for you. And,
Warren will
quite a
gladly
variety of
accept
other things.
all of the food he possibly can.
Yes, indeed.
Of course.
He's a bottomless pit. He will eat as much as you possibly give him.
I believe it. Goes right to his butt.
Yeah, exactly.
The rest of him is skin and bones.
Yep.
Uh,
There you go.
Oh, God, that makes me immediately think of Warren with the fucking Omni-Man meme.
Oh my god.
Yes.
You would.
You rest for the evening. Morning comes quickly enough. No weird dreams tonight. The sun rises. You eventually do all awaken and are served a hearty breakfast, a dwarven breakfast. So, of course, there's ale to drink.
Excellent.
And then you gather your belongings and you head out. And knowing that first things first, you must speak with Greggy and Daenor and report on your findings.
Before we get there, can we take a moment to try to examine Ardre's scar again? Figure out the nature of the magic in it?
The magic does register. You can see not only any other magical things on your person, if you have any. There's not any magic in the rest of the room, except for your hand. There may be a magical item that pings here or there on your comrades, but otherwise that's the thing that you're focused on.
Yes.
The magic registers as enchantment, as it did before. But the nature of the spell just evades you. Go ahead and roll an Arcana check.
Bardic Inspiration, and let's also drop a... Clume is with us. Clume, could you cast Guidance?
So you have an extra D4 from Guidance, I believe, and an extra D6 from Bardic Inspiration. So you can roll those together with your Arcana check if you would like.
Okay, and a normal roll, yes.
Advantage, because Erst is assisting.
And advantage. There you go.
All right. Let's go.
Roll a nat one on both rolls.
Right,
Stack
I'm
those
ready.
bonuses.
Okay, so 22, and then go ahead and roll the D6 and the D4.
Bernard and I just sitting here a little uselessly, but we're
Watching
here
the
for
As we do.
morals.
5.
Exactly, moral
for
support. Cheerleading in the back.
And a 1, so 6,
Okay.
so 28.
28. Y'all
Good
can
lord.
really push a dice when you really
When you're motivated.
That's pretty impressive. So it starts with conversation of between you and Urist of what happened the night before, how this nomad stabbed through their hand and then into yours, and caused pain, but then there was no wound, just this straight line kind of almond shaped marking where the dagger had pierced you. Having studied magic, and having Urist there who has also studied magic to some degree, you believe that this is the effect not of a spell, but of a curse on the dagger that was used upon you. It is a blood seal that binds you to the nomad that stabbed through you. However, the curse aspect is on the first person that the blade passes through. And a benefit, a boon, is granted to the person that it pierces next.
Huh.
Which is to say, because the Nomad had their hand on top, they're the ones that suffer the quote-unquote curse effect, while Audrey gets the benefit side.
And the benefit is the same effect as a set of sending stones. You can send a message once per day to the nomad that you have been bonded to. Likewise, they can do the same. You head up the road north back to the barracks. There, the guards, becoming steadily accustomed to your presence, and seem to have gotten into at least a little bit of a routine of guiding you up to the office of Captain Greggy Daenor. Through the sweaty, iron-smelling hallways lined with weapons and into the neat office where it seems that many more books have been piled up on the desks that surround his chair. He welcomes you in, bids you to sit upon the simple, creaky chairs that are across from his desk. He looks a bit weary, a bit tired. There's some bags under his golden eyes. And he says, "Welcome back. I'm relieved to see you all are alive."
Aye, 'tis a little lucky business, I'm afraid.
Oh,
So, Erst briefly looks around to the room, and then back to him and sort of raises an eyebrow. Are things still quiet?
that's a loaded question.
Mm.
We had an incident with a group of lizard men the other day that have been falling into violent gang activities. We had to break that up.
Erst raises a hand. Are we safe to talk here?
He furrows his brow, takes a deep breath, and says, let's put it this way. If you wouldn't tell your mother, you might not want to tell it to me.
Not quite what I'm concerned about. So, tell me what you know about nomads.
So you've met some people beyond the walls.
Aye, that we have. Learned more than one thing while we were at it, and it's going to be very important to be able to figure out if there is more knowledge here within the walls.
Looks around at the rest of the group, making eye contact, kind of confirming what Ernst is saying, but then saying, "It's enough that we know they exist. Did you warn them about Lysithia Daminor?"
Erst's brow furrows. No, I do not believe that we did. But we should be able to, if it's immediately necessary.
Good. Okay, so you have some sort of contact with these people. Let me just ask a series of yes or no questions.
Aye.
Do these people present an immediate risk to Arkala?
Not these
Yes.
ones.
They
Well,
do.
Not these ones.
So,
Not these ones.
there is at least two factions, or one faction and a bunch of hangers-on.
God's above.
And that brings me to the second thing, and I'm afraid the yes or no questions are going to have to go for a bit. In short, there is a supposed king of the Nomads, an old being, possibly as old as the walls. And he does not have much fondness for Arkala. Apparently, he can control or command the beasts.
Great
And-
beasts.
Aye, the big ones. And as if that wasn't bad enough, there is a present threat. They informed us that there was going to be one being set upon the walls fairly soon. Sorry, I can't remember the actual details of the threat being made. The specific type of creature. Anybody else
Lizard.
got a lizard?
Mhm.
And we share that then,
Yep,
and
okay.
along with the rough time scale.
Very good. This is information that we've never had before. We've never had warning of a beast, a great beast approaching our walls. Very well. He turns and he pulls out a piece of parchment and quickly begins to scribble onto it. A hasty note that he then has to apply his seal to. He does this, rolls it up, seals it, and hands it to the nearest person who just happens to be Adre, randomly. Go to the cathedral and ask to speak to Skibba Quoot.
You have to spell that one.
Gesundheit.
Bless you.
She is in charge of some of the oldest books in Arcala. This note should allow you access to see some of them to try to put together a sense of all these things that you've told me. Nomads, Nomad Kings, that doesn't mean anything to me. I need to know, are these people a threat? And either if you can contact them and ask them more to explain composition of their numbers, how they can control these beasts, things like that, that would be valuable information to me. Otherwise, everything is, and he kind of throws his hands up, scholarly. And in matters of scholarliness, I would trust Miss Quoot over myself. Talk to Miss Quoot. Learn what you can. Help her, learn from her, or have her send me information on whatever you find. Whatever it is, we need to gather this information. We need to understand the nature of our enemy. I've never heard of this Nomad King. I've heard of Wilders, people that live outside the walls, but nothing to this sort of scale. Nothing that suggests that animals that attack our walls would ever have been controlled. It seems random. You know, the ram a week ago or more. The great leopard that was scratching at the western wall, 2 months ago. These are random attacks. None of them have ever breached the walls.
Quinn.
So talk to her and figure out what needs to be figured out.
Maybe they've kept us busy.
Busy with what? Nobody leaves the walls except groups like you.
The defenders, I mean.
Wait.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now, did you tell him about how they can't come through the walls?
Not overtly, but we can go ahead and include that. Yes.
Yeah. So let's say that you guys go over a few more details
Yep.
for your conversation, relaying
Still
everything.
interested, and we don't have to. Yeah, we don't have to cover every last bit.
Yeah, it's clear that we've reached. The impression that you get is that you've reached to kind of the maximum of Gregian Daenor's intelligence score.
Jesus, just calling him out like that.
And everything beyond this is getting a little bit above his pay grade, and he's already the person that's paid the highest for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So we're getting into some interesting parts like that. But he gathers all this information. His brow knotted, his head kind of shaken slowly, like he just is gotten too much an information overload. And on top of this, it means that there are threats that now are facing the city that he has sworn to protect. He leans back in his chair, looks up at the ceiling, featureless rafters, and finally at length lets out a sigh and says, okay. So it's possible that this heir was responsible for the Ankeg attack and the axe and boot. You believe that those monsters were somehow lured. You believe that this runic magic poses a threat and these people are able to use it, but to what extent we still don't know. This Nomad King is ancient. If there was some imminent attack, which I guess the lizard, the great lizard could be that imminent attack, but if they can't cross our walls, then what's the point?
Taking them down.
Taking them down.
So Warren pipes up. He's like, I had a thought, and I know that's, which is rare for Warren, but
everyone's eyes go wide.
I know. I was surprised too.
Yeah.
He's having a
he's even a thunk. The corpses of the smaller monsters we fought days ago. Do you still have those?
No, I believe they were disposed of.
Well, if we find any more, it might be prudent to check them for runes.
Perhaps, if we can get ahead of this, we may be able to catch these people in some sort of trap if they are foolish enough. They may not know that that they can control these beasts. And if we can put eyes, clever eyes like yours, and he points at like 4 of you, pauses, and then points at Warren as well to just include him,
Still part of group.
then maybe we can catch these people red-handed.
Aye. The last thing before we go, what was the message that you wanted us to pass on to the Nomads? The group that wasn't working for the king?
Mostly be mindful of anybody claiming to work for Lysithia Daminor.
We can include some more detail than that. Anything else that they need?
You could tell them Lysithia Daminor is a greedy pig witch. Do not tell anyone I said that. You kind of hear him heave a heavy sigh as you leave. You might even catch him saying something along the lines of, "It seems this place is just getting nuttier and nuttier by the day. Now I got people that actually want to go outside the walls." You focus for just a moment. It's not difficult. You can feel the magic striking that mark on your hand, and you send the message through. And what was the sentence that you sent? What was it, Alex?
Be mindful of anyone claiming to work for Lysithia Daminor. She is a greedy pig witch and not to be trusted.
Very good. Okay. You send that through, and there's a moment. You're not really sure what to expect, but eventually you do get a message back. A single word that pings inside of your mind and suddenly occupies a space in your memory.
Guys, what's a check mark mean?
Yeah, and that's just the sensation that you get, that someone has nodded, someone has agreed. It is not even a word; it's just a feeling.
What does 100 emoji mean?
Guys, I just got the image of somebody holding a thumbs up. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
What's a cucumber have to do with anything?
What's a cucumber to do?
Nope,
Oh
that's
my God.
an eggplant and sweat drops and 2 googly eyes.
Oh my. Oh my.
Well, presuming we still have time to fool about, so let's head off to the library and seek out Ms. I'm going to have to find that name in the chat again.
Okay. The cathedral that Greg and Danor refers to is very familiar to Warren.
Oh,
It is the largest place of worship in Arcala. There are other places where people will go to give thanks to the god of the sun, or the god of light, or the god of harvests, or different things like that. Those are kind of perhaps the most common ones in other parts of the town. But this cathedral, one of the grandest and largest structures in Arcala, is just a short jog from the barracks.
Assuming that we would actually jog.
Yeah, you don't jog, so it's a long walk. But anyway, you come across the steps. It's a massive semicircle of steps that lead up to these doors that are perpetually wide open. Glass windows stretch 5 stories tall. And there are staircases on the outside and the inside that lead up to other substructures that have since been added onto the cathedral over time. You see statues, very wind-worn and old, stained with rain, that stand guard on the outside of the cathedral. Entering inside, you're greeted by hushed echoes, where even a slight speech will suddenly seem to travel across the great expanse and bounce off of the walls and across the different pews and other areas inside. There's a lot of open space inside of here. And on a day that is not a day of worship, it is rather empty. There are still a few people mulling about, giving thanks as their own personal morals dictate, or their own personal beliefs. There are statues of a variety of different gods, mostly representative. Instead of a statue of a person or a being, it is more a statue of a symbol, something that represents that god. There is a large 4-pointed star that represents the god of the night. and there is a big sphere with many little spikes traveling across the equator that represents the god of the sun. There is a skull, a hooded skull that represents the god of death. And a variety of others kind of lining the walls to the north and south of this cathedral. All the way ahead, there, instead of any particular place where a person can perform any sort of sermon, there is a large, slightly raised platform with a variety of seats, all wooden, all coated in red velvet. At these seats, various priests would delegate, and they would speak on behalf of the god that they represent or that they worship. You would have the trials of a paladin or a cleric would often be hosted here, where a acolyte would be summoned to stand amidst the council of priests and would attempt to commune with a deity and gain some sort of blessing. Warren, of course, is very familiar with all of these things.
He's actually looking around for Miss Quoot.
Yes, and you know that Miss Quoot doesn't actually occupy the space here. She is not on the seat of the council. She has the library is one of those wings off of the to the right, to the northern wing of the cathedral. That is the cathedral's historic library. There are other libraries in Arcala. This one is notable because it is the most safe place for the oldest documents of Arcala. Some locked under heavy lock and chain, even are said to be about the very founding, or have been written at the founding of Arcala itself. Walking down the great expanse of the cathedral, one of the most open areas of Arcala, you turn and head into this library. Two massive doors held open, much like the front door to the cathedral. A nice breeze passes through this large space. And you see that there is a desk and very many bookshelves, all behind wood and glass doors, locked away. Some of them locked with a simple, tiny little key, and lock some of them in the far back with chains wrapped around. Thick wooden doors, no glass to display what could be inside of them, simply slabs of heavy wood and chain crisscrossing with several padlocks locking that chain together. In the center, sitting behind the desk, is Miss Skiba Quoot. She is an owlin. Her feathers are a pure shade of white amidst her body, with a few the occasional black feather that stands out as a spot along her sides and her back. But she is wearing a thick woven gown. The halfway mark, I'll tell you that in just a moment here, Alex. She wears a thick gown that goes all the way down to her feet. Warren, you know that if she stands taller than you upon long legs, long avian legs. Her wings are tightly folded against her back, and her eyes are dark and set inside of her relatively flat but elegant face, her beak coming to a gently curved point, very much like a barn owl. She looks up from her writing, her note-taking, and she sees Warren, rolls her eyes.
There it is.
Oh no.
And says, "What is it now?"
It's like, yes.
Audrey will produce the parchment that. Oh God, what's his name again?
Greggy and Daynor.
Greggy
Daynor.
Thank you. I was gonna say Dor.
It's like
Daynor.
Gave hands it over.
Okay. She quirks a slender brow and gently takes it from your hand.
It's good to see you.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, does everybody in this town just always raise an eyebrow when anyone does anything?
Yes.
Yeah, everyone's kind of set in routine. This is a peaceful place.
It's a peaceful place.
You're
I'm not sure why
disrupting.
I'm not sure why everyone keeps reacting like turns to Warren. Oh, right.
Oh, right.
Oh, right.
That explains a lot.
He exists.
Oh no.
You can tell, like, she's
Okay.
looking at all of you, she's confused, clearly. Like, Warren has friends?
Oh my
How?
god.
She produces a small letter opener, breaks the seal, takes the briefest of glances at what's written before rolling it up and throwing the letter in a trash bin.
Oh.
Steeples her fingers together, takes a deep breath, and then lets out a very, very small no.
Warren's very confused. He actually is like, oh, here, let me. And then he goes to fish it out of the trash can.
Oh my.
Erst,
Oh, no.
Erst sighs and moves forward. Begging your pardon, ma'am, but I'm afraid we're in need of your help. And, well, not about the rock.
Yes, I read Captain Daenor's letter. I'm not giving you access to the oldest tomes in Arcala.
Oh, don't worry. I'm very, very careful with books. I can also read, I'll have you know.
Plume kind of says, Plume kind of jumps off of Quinn's shoulders
Mm-hmm.
and walks over and kind of just like whispers into her ears, "Wait, don't bring him," and points to Warren.
For once, this doesn't have anything to do with Warren.
For
I'm
once.
not giving
For
a
once.
group of 5 people that I've just met who produce a letter written by Captain Daenor access to the most venerated texts of our glorious city.
But Miss Quote, we're quite familiar with each other. Surely you can trust me. You know of all my good deeds, and I do good work for the cathedral. As he finally
can
gets the
trust-
note.
Yeah, you get the note. I can trust you to take out the trash and entertain
I'm very
the
good
little
at
ones.
that. But of course.
In matters of the most delicate artifacts of this venerated city, I am the final say. I say no.
I can understand your reluctance, ma'am. But we do be needing information regardless. If you don't trust us with the books, either we must do something to be able to help you trust us better, or we must request your help such that we don't have to be handling them ourselves.
But of
I'm-
course, a holy quest. I've heard of these. Unless we do something of great renown, and then of course that will prove our trustworthiness.
She lets out a heavy sigh. Gathers herself up again, takes, you saw her shoulders slump a little bit, and now she's like making an effort to keep her posture straight. I'm willing to entertain your questions. I have read most of the texts, if not all of them, in this entire library, if not in all of Arcala. Ask a question, and I will see if I can aid you in your quest.
Very well. Would you mind going somewhere a little more private so we can speak without being overheard?
She lets out another heavy sigh. Slowly picks herself up again and says, "If we must, follow me. Caden. Caden!" She calls out into the hallway, and a silver dragonborn, you hear his steps before he turns the corner. Yes, Miss Kroot. You needed my assistance.
Sees
Caden,
Warren.
could you please watch the desk? I have to tend to these. And she just stops the sentence.
It's like
Caden glances around, spots Warren, nods. Strength be with you, ma'am.
Warren just excitedly waves back.
Caden gives a friendly little half smile and wave and takes a seat as Miss Kroot gives it up. And when she stands, you see how tall this woman is. Easily reaching 8 feet tall.
Man.
She walks slowly and with purpose and poise and with grace. Even when she has to duck a little bit, to get into the door of her office off to the side. She does so carefully, holding her robe so that it does not touch the ground, and allows you all in.
Before we begin, I want to mention that some of what we are going to talk about is rather important to the city at large. You've got great respect for the oldest artifacts of the great city itself, and so I assume that extends to the city proper.
Yes, I do have a certain amount of pride for the city in which I live.
Good, good. I'm sure we all do. And with that in mind, I will ask you not to speak too loudly, or at all, of the questions we're about to ask, if it seems like they'd be something you wouldn't want getting around.
She gestures to a plaque on a wall, just casually, gently kind of swooping her hand to gesture towards it. And framed is a piece of parchment that seems like it had been burnt in a couple of places, but the text remains whole. And it simply says, "Knowledge is power, guard it well."
She nods. Aye. So, let us begin at the beginning. What do you know about the Nomads?
Bloom kind of like looks at Udist and she's like, you know, I don't think that's their actual name. You should probably describe what they actually are.
Aye, that might help a bit. What do you know about the people living outside the walls?
She furrows her brow, looks at you very seriously, her eyes squinting. Let's skip what I know. Assume I know everything that your mind is about to conjure. What is the point of us speaking?
We have been alerted to some dangers to the city. Friends and dangers both, in fact. We are in pursuit of answers which will help us defend it.
Then I gather you've made contact with the Nomads that live outside the walls.
Aye, that be so.
I see. It's been a long time since I've had to entertain a conversation such as this. The Nomads and the Nomad King, that I'm sure you've heard of, pose no threat to our Kala.
Please, elaborate.
The walls of Arkala have a minor enchantment. Well, minor to us. We may pass in and out of the gates as we see fit. One of the Nomads, well, they cannot pass our thresholds. They cannot drill through our walls, they cannot dig underneath them, they cannot vault over them. The land within Arkala is inimical to their life.
Bloom kind of like her ears kind of like, one ear kind of like flops, like points upwards, one kind of like flops downward, and she's like, how could this enchantment be able to discern a nomad from a traveler or a normal citizen?
Oh, at last a question, a good one. You see,
Kloom kind of blushes.
You see, my dear goblin, the Nomads are of a race not found in Arkala, and Arkala is home to a very varied group of races. Why, cat folk, lizard folk, everything from dragonborn to owlin, and dwarves, and even creatures such as Warren.
That's me.
All live in harmony, or at least to a degree, here in Arkala. But the Nomads are of a cursed race. A completely separate bloodline from any that you or I may come from.
Do you have any more detail about this particular bloodline?
I cannot say. Or,
Now-
let me rephrase, I will not say.
Aye, that was going to be the next question. The
Sorry.
Nomad King. The Nomad King. You've heard of them before then?
Oh, yes, it seems that every generation or so, a group of people manages to make contact with the nomads that prowl outside the walls of Arkala. A keeper may see red eyes peering at them through a bush, and instead of fleeing in fear for their lives, they go and investigate, much to their foolishness. These questions invariably come to me. Poor Gregian Daenor, he's too young to really know how often these sorts of issues come to me. The Nomad King, according to some of our most ancient texts, is just as ancient, or at least the Nomads would have you believe. You see, no text in Arkala describes the Nomad King in any sort of detail. He is, even in those texts, a myth, a legend, a folklore passed down to keep the people of Arkala in our walls as if the great beasts weren't enough. The Nomads use the Nomad King as a way to scare people from expanding the territories of the cities that they call home.
And what sorts of tales are told about his abilities? What sort of might and magic can he possibly have to be so frightening?
Oh,
Clume kind of interjects,
go ahead.
and she's like, "Wait, Mrs. Which you prefer?"
Miss.
Okay. Miss, before we continue talking, because I kind of realize that we are going into some sensitive topics about the nomads. Clume kind of points towards Audrey's hand, and she's like, "No, I may be just super paranoid. But when we met these nomads, they murked our friend here. And you, having read these books, I was wondering if you could probably check up on the mark that he received and maybe be able to see if there's anything with it that we don't know, because I'm a little concerned that they might be able to hear what we're saying."
Oh, dear Goblin. No, the mark such as that, I see it come to me from time to time. A nomad will make a pact of, and she puts in air quotes, friendship. And this allows two individuals to speak occasionally to each other. The nomads seldom have anything to say. She shrugs and says there is nothing in the text that suggests that they can hear any more than a sentence per day.
Interjection. You're going to talk about his abilities or supposed magics and such, yes?
Ah, yes, of course. The Nomad King has every ability. Power of flight, the power of teleportation, the power to move mountains and raise trees from saplings to great old oaks in an instant. He has every power that you can think of, at least according to the nomads that would have you hear their tales.
Aye. Throwing fire and growing beasties, no doubt, yeah?
Of course.
And what of his heir?
At that, she pauses, squints again. The Nomad King does not have an heir.
Well, he does now.
Aye, he does now.
If he does, then I would simply chalk it up to the nomads coming up with a fresh new story to scare young adventurers such as yourselves.
Of the interactions with the nomads that the town has been aware of, have they ever offered boons or predictions?
The nomads have the uncanny ability to predict the movements of various great beasts. I believe that this is not of any particular purpose, it is simply their ability to read the whims of these great creatures. That is their one redeeming talent.
Finally, Quinn's been sitting here this entire time with
Mhm.
his arms crossed, very
Uh-huh.
silent,
Uh-huh.
purposely just not looking at this woman because after a few minutes into this conversation, he's like, man, I do not like her. This is like so frustrating having to listen to this woman rattle on. So finally, when she says that, he gets up and he says to her, "You're an arrogant fool who thinks these walls will protect you for the rest of your life."
Warren kind
And
of
he
goes
just
wide-eyed
turns
at that.
around and walks out.
He walks out.
He leaves. Goodbye.
She doesn't even flinch. She watches you leave, waits for the door to close.
Well, obviously, Clune kind of picks up her staff because she kind of left it at the side of the chair and then follows Quinn.
Okay.
Warren is
How about the
very
rest of you?
panicky because he's never had to deal with interpersonal relationships like this before. He's like, uh-oh, somebody didn't like Miss Quoot.
Erst will bow her head slightly apologetically, but she's not going to either take responsibility or the like.
Okay.
She will, however, keep asking questions.
Yeah, and Miss Quoot immediately says, "Do you have any other questions?" in a very exasperated voice.
Aye, just a few. Out of curiosity, what do you know? What do you know about a dragon having its dealings with Arcala's early construction?
I wish the Nomads would not speak these tales, because information of that kind is forbidden.
Aye, very well. And here I'm going to assume that the Lord Daenor's signature is not enough to unforbid it for us.
Even Lord Odinet's signature would not be enough to make me talk.
That's why we need a rogue.
As you wish.
What I will say, perhaps to sate your curiosity, or perhaps to pique it more, who knows these days, there are some oaths older than the politicians that rule this land.
What good is an oath when the wall comes down?
My dear Adre, listen. I heard about what happened outside with your inn. The walls are not going to come down. In fact, they've expanded over time. Slowly, but steadily. They're not going to fall. The walls are inviolable. If you truly believe that there is some air, then take it up with the Nomads. Run beyond the wall, find their hidey holes, and do what you must to get the truth out of them. If indeed there is someone acting against the city, there is a place that I might look.
Warren is very
There's a
pleased with
cave
himself. He's bouncing
to
up
the
and down.
northwest. If you follow the coast, about 3 days' walk, and then turn in to the east, when you find an ancient landmark, the remains of a fishing village, then you may find the cave of which I speak, if it still exists. The texts that I have on this location say that it is a place of natural wealth. Not exactly sure what that means. Expeditions have been sent out to try to find this cave, but if someone was operating near Arcala, perhaps they'd use a place like that. If nothing else, you can discover what this natural wealth is, bring some back, and if it's valuable enough, maybe you'll be heralded as a hero of a different sort.
He's just like,
Fuck is
he's
that
getting
laugh?
pumped up. He's getting pumped up as he hears this.
Vibrating like a kid on sugar.
Yeah, he's like,
Erst rolls insight.
Go for it.
And 14.
So you get the feeling that she's telling the truth, but there is very apparent to you, even with a role like that there is an ulterior motive.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, she. You get the feeling that she is a person that deals with facts as she sees them, right? So she is not going to lie to you, but she will use the facts to tell you to go off and go fuck yourself.
Right. Erst rises and cuts a proper courtly bow.
Mm-hmm.
I thank you for your time and effort in this, and for distracting you with these sorts of old rumors. If I may ask one final thing before I leave, do you happen to know anything about undead trees?
Trees cannot become undead, my dear dwarf.
Oh, yes, that tree. I used, I have that magic problem, I may have used some magic on a tree and it got more powerful. I'm sure it's nothing. I'm sure it means nothing. I'm sure it's not an indication that,
Warden. 'Twas not your fault. 'Twas not your tree.
He's sitting there just like poking his hands together.
What are you talking about?
Erst raises an eyebrow. Perhaps this is something a bit new then. There is a tree not too far from the walls, which grows strong and black and is carved with runic magic, and its leaves are harmful to the living and helpful to the dead.
At that, you cease to exist to her. She immediately stands up, grabs a bag, and marches out of her office and out of the cathedral.
First pursues.
As she takes off, as soon as she's out of sight, I do want to just take a quick glance around the office and see
Go ahead
if
and roll
there
a
are
perception
any.
check.
Okay.
Nice.
So I was
Okay.
looking around to see if there was anything pertaining to what we had been discussing, maybe.
Okay, so at a quick glance, you're seeing that most of the things that she has in this office seem to be books that are in various states of disrepair. And she is going through the motions of actually fixing the binding and carefully, like it's almost looks like the office of somebody studying archaeology because of how many, magnifying glasses, and there's gloves and specific tools and all these different kinds of things to help repair these ancient books. The one that immediately draws your eye, as if drawn by the destiny of a natural 20, is a book off to behind her desk that has been set upon kind of a workbench area. The cover of that book is it is titled The Predations of Kings.
Oh, sounds promising.
The Predation of Kings, splitting myth from fact.
Well, I'm
That is
tucking
the
that into
subtitle.
the satchel with my tome.
You're gonna take that.
Then scooting out after them. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Make a. I'm not gonna have you make a sleight of hand check because nobody sees you do it.
No, exactly. That's the only reason I
okay.
did it.
You swoop the book in some repair into your satchel. You can feel that the cover is kind of loose, which is probably why it was about to be repaired. But stick in your patchel, your satchel, satchel, patchel, and you march right on out. Miss Quoot barks an order to Caden, and she says, "Lock my office, admit no one."
Perfect timing.
And you all come back out. Caden hurries to lock the door before returning to his seat at Miss Quoot's desk to twiddle his thumbs and wait for her return.
Clume is gonna kind of rush out and tell Quinn, no matter what you feel about her, I think some shit's about to go down. Let's go.
Let's go.
And she starts following.
Okay. You follow out. There are a couple of glances that go your way as you follow Skiba Koot out the cathedral. And then, Quinn, you spot Koot stepping out of the cathedral. She doesn't even look at you. She has her
I
eyes
glare
set.
at her.
You glare at her. She has her
glare
eyes
at her.
set ahead. And you see the party kind of hurrying after her. Now, she has long legs. She has a very fast gait. You guys have to practically jog to keep up with her. Quinn, you see the rest of the party following after her. What do you do?
He sees her at first and he's like, oh, whatever, I guess the party will be out in a minute. And then he sees everyone else. Clume runs up to him. It says something about shit about to go down, and
It's like, uh-oh.
he's very confused, but he's like, all right.
All right.
And just follows along with everyone else.
By the way,
Okay.
Warren does go and he has to sort of double back for a split second, sprints over, grabs his rock off the front desk, and then sprints back to catch back up.
Not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping you forgot.
Sure. So you still have your rock.
Yeah,
Caden looks at you confused, is not sure why there was a rock. You make it clear it's yours, and he does not bother to stop you. And off you go, rock in tow. So Skiba gets to the center of the road, and then immediately wheels on the lot of you and says, "Where is this tree?"
Erst shrugs and starts leading the way, trying
Okay.
to keep up the pace that she was keeping.
Clume stops. Clume yells, "Urus, wait!" And then she catches up, kind of catches her breath, no huffing. Oh my god, you guys run fast. And she's like, she turns towards Miss Owl Lady.
Mm-hmm.
And she this is kind of a little out of place for Clume, but Clume's like wait, how did the Owl Lady do this? I'm trying to remember. Clume raises her hand, kind of like how she did,
Okay.
and it's kind of like it's more like we won't show you where it is because we didn't get the information that we were looking for. So how about we trade info for info? We take you to the tree and you answer a couple more specific questions for us.
Okay. Go ahead and roll a persuasion check.
Okay.
I'm about to ruin this goblin's whole career.
Uh-oh.
Where is it? Alright, so it's this, and then I roll a d4 and add it, which
Okay.
yeah, more than likely it's not going to, but oh well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see her feathers puff up, and you can see some red come into her face. At that moment, before Urist has a chance, Urist is like about to speak, for example, but then a man crossing the road said, "Oh, you mean the black tree? They just sprouted up over on the northeastern wall." And at that, Kroot immediately turns and starts marching in that direction.
Boom casts hold person on her.
Hold. Oh.
Seriously?
Uh-oh.
Okay. Very good. All right. You see her stop mid-stride, and she's stuck. And she tries to turn. She can only really move her eyes and speak. And she tries to see you, but you're behind her at this point.
Bloom says, "Info for info," and walks like in front of her.
Don't know if that's gonna
Do
work.
we have
'cause
a deal?
she already knows where it is.
Erst approaches and proceeds to good cop. Now, Clume, that is no way to treat someone that we're trying to act as an ally to. We all want the same thing here, and that is for the safety and prosperity of the city to continue to increase. Ma'am, I know you may not trust us immediately, and I'm sure this is not helping. But we mean the best for the city, and the more information we have about it, the better we can act in its protection.
There's a little bit of a growl that comes out of her throat. And you can see all the effort to maintain her poise and maintain her stature is very quickly, that facade is melting away. She glares down at the goblin and dwarf, and says, "I cannot say what is forbidden."
Well then, point us to where we could possibly procure the information we seek, if you can't speak of it.
All right. Fine.
And upon hearing that, Gloom, because I'm assuming it's like towards the end of a minute anyway. So
Yeah,
Gloom
yeah.
kind of lowers her hand, lets the whole person drop, and
Okay.
then guides everyone towards the street because she remembers where it is.
Okay.
Talk
So
as we walk.
before she does that, she stands right there. She doesn't seem to want you to be following her. She wants to end this here and now. It is fine, again, getting your attention, drawing you back to her in the middle of the road. At this point, there's like a little bit of a crowd that's like started to watch, what the heck is going on in the middle of the street. And she says, "I know where to point you. You wish for information about these nomads? Then travel to Yefshire. Prove yourselves to the council there. And you will get the information you seek." And with that, she starts marching off again. Do you follow?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's a brisk walk to the tree. The Owlin woman leading the way, now that she's kind of gotten direction. Her long strides making it difficult to keep pace with her. It's even difficult to talk, because within a block or two, some of you may even be out of breath.
Gloom's definitely probably out of breath.
Yes, but make it to the tree you do in record time. And as soon as she comes to the edge of it, she stops. She stands there with wide eyes, beak gently agape. Silent, just watching. What is this? What happened here?
Here, come. First, carefully approaches it, making sure no leaves are falling.
Uh-huh. Oh, leaves are constantly falling. So the tree, as you look upon the tree again, you see the black bark that stretches stoutly upwards and into the creeping and reaching branches that spread out to create this canopy. Flowers bloom and then wither and fall, petals drifting gently down to the ground, only to be replaced very shortly by leaves that stretch out in an almond shape, black leaves that then fall again. And as soon as they hit the ground, they wither and burst into ash, disappearing completely, only for the entire process to repeat itself. It seems that this happens every couple of minutes or so, this fast-forward time lapse of the tree going through the various stages that it would normally go through the seasons. Never growing any larger, never growing in any other odd way, just this constant bloom, wither, break, and bloom and wither and break, creating a constant rain of petals and leaves that drift gently to the desiccated circle around it.
So
Like it's imitating life.
Do not touch the leaves nor the petals. They will harm ya. They are good, however, for undead. I'm sure you understand the implication.
In the
She
break.
wheels on Warren and jabs him with a taloned finger. What did you do?
well, you see, I may have, just cast a little bit of my magic on it. I swear, I thought I was under the guidance of a deity, a holy deity. So I thought my.
Erst gently sets a hand on his chest plate, trying to calm him a little bit. What? Warren was attempting to invoke some deific ability, and it looks like what happened was he channeled forth not healing light, but rather the opposite.
It's just my magic is a little busted. It's all. It just needs to, just a deity graces me, and it'll all work correctly.
Doesn't make any sense.
I know, right?
Right.
No.
No. Uh-oh.
Do you hear that?
Or just looks around.
Make perception checks.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. Oh my god. I'm still saying right now, my heart is kind of still pounding from doing that. Jesus fucking Christ! Like, what? Like, when I was when I was going to say, oh, you said perception, right?
14.
Perception.
Oh no.
24. But it was just like when I rolled that low with the persuasion, in the back of my mind, I'm like, fuck, I have to do this. And then
You really wanted to make a point, yeah.
Yeah, like I actually felt like Clume for a second because my heart was fucking pounding while I was telling you I cast Hold Person.
That was mighty brave of you and Clume.
Oh,
So the Adria got 13, Warren got 14, Alex got 12.
I got
You
24.
three do not hear it, but Quinn and Clume, you do.
Uh-huh.
Uh-oh.
No.
What do we... No?
No.
Wreck. No. She turns and begins to walk slowly away without a word.
Thank you, Mrs. Quoot. His ward's got to deal with her again.
She, when you say that, she wheels on you and points an accusatory finger, and she says, "You! You may be called upon to take responsibility for this."
Oh, like an epic quest.
She gives kind of a wry, sort of like a knowing smile, like not a nice smile at all. It's definitely a gross sort of smile. And she says, "Yes, dear Warren, like a quest."
Ah, excellent! Yes, a hero's quest. Us just to undo the evil that is this tree.
You can very audibly hear Clume facepalm.
He's
Yep,
like,
yep.
oh, this Ragnall must be an evil villain. Yes, this must be his tree. Ah, yes, I will stop it. Yes.
And she walks away, leaving you 5 to consider your positions.
All right.
Yeah, that's enough Arcala for one day, and you go your separate ways. Perhaps you all go to the Axe and Boot Tavern to relax and have a few drinks, or another place. You return to your various homes to rest. You all have a dream.
Oh, no.
It is a shared dream, once again.
Oh, baby.
You can see each other standing around the sapling once more, but the sapling is a little bit bigger. And you're not alone around the sapling. It's not just you 5, there are others, but the shape of those others is inconsistent, shadowy, murky. You feel the name rolling through you. Rack-Null. Rumbling through the desiccated earth that you stand upon. No roots reach out to grab you this time. In fact, you watch as the shadow figures that are around you, around this sapling, they start to approach. They move past you, and as they do, they get smaller and smaller and disappear into the base of the steadily growing sapling. Rack. No. Rack. No.
Oh,
There's
baby.
something else. A rumbling through the earth. As if some distant fury has been unleashed. An anger that washes over you like a red tide. The sky, dark as it is, begins to glow as if in sunset. But not to the east. Wait, sun rises in the west, right?
No, east.
East.
Typically
Sun
east.
rising, yeah. So not as the sun set to the west, but rather to the north, somehow you feel. From the north, this anger. The sky turning blood red. Rack. No. That tree. Rising as one by one those shadowy figures disappear into it. And then, from the north, the sound of horns. Distant, but getting slowly closer. That is where we are going to end tonight's session.
Oh, baby.